Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are we? Hey, listen, good to see a few of you on this morning. Hey, Kevin. Good to see you, mate. Chris is there too. Bunty, good morning to you. Hey, listen, give us a shout out in the chat, folks. Could you hear the music? I heard it today for some reason. And can you hear me? Anyway, technology is always a good thing. It's fantastic when it works. Sometimes a bit confusing when it doesn't. But anyway, let me know in the chat if you can hear me. And maybe if you can't hear me, then you can't answer my question. So there you go. Anyway, let me put this in. Can you guys? All right, Chris. There you go. Anyway, something must have happened at my end. But anyway, let's crack on with today's coffee chats. Good morning, James. Great to have you here. Thanks, Chris. All good. Hey, morning, Luke. Kevin, thanks, mate. Good on you. So, hey, welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks. Good to see you. Good to have you here while we're getting things warmed up and the live is getting sorted. Jason Witten's my name. Most of you know that, though. But if you are a new Wealth Coffee Chatter, maybe, welcome to the show. And let us know. Give us a shout out in the chat. Say hello. Let us know what you're up to. Morning, Lynn. Good to see you. Thanks for letting us know. Hey, this morning I thought we might talk about setting up bank account systems. Now, it's interesting. It's interesting for us as property investors. We talk about things like budgets. We talk about things like understanding your numbers. We talk about things like managing your cash flow. We talk things like positive cash flow, negative gearing, positive cash flow. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of it needs to be in and manage or structure our bank accounts, folks. I teach a lesson. I teach a subject called control the cash. And, controlling the cash is pretty important. Understand your exposure when it comes to dollars and cents in your world, when it comes to personal guarantees, money, all of those sorts of things. So we might talk about that today and have a little conversation about how we structure our loans, structure our bank accounts, and how money should flow in and out. Again, a bit of a general overview conversation when it comes to this sort of stuff, because managing this stuff can be a little confusing sometimes. Okay, well that's the kind of gist of today's conversation. Anyway, but there you go. So let's have a little conversation about that stuff this morning, and what we might do about it as property investors as we go along. Now, listen, there's a few things in our world that we need to understand when it comes to the world of lending and controlling the cash. I teach a system called Control the Cash, and there's three parts to controlling the cash that are pretty important to understand. Right. So the last part is lending and leverage, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Lending and leverage. We'll talk about personal guarantees, PGs, and we'll talk about banking, like bank account system, bank account systems, right? Now, today, personal guarantees, we won't dive too much into that part because that can be a little bit more detailed when it comes to personal guarantees. But at the end of the day, for most of us, if you're PAYG means pay as you go earner, might be in a career, you might have a job with somebody. Personal guarantees are usually fairly limited personal guarantees. That means you as the individual guaranteeing lending of some description that affects your ability to borrow or manage banking systems. Okay, so personal guarantees usually affects those in businesses, those who have companies, have directorships, have other liabilities outside of just simple lending. All right, so credit arrangements, which is usually sort of a mortgage for your home or a mortgage for a property investment. So PGs, and we're not going to do a lot on today, but we're going to talk about the idea of a bank account system, banking, and how you manage yourself when it comes to keeping safe when it comes to that sort of stuff. And then the lending and leverage process, how you run those loans, all right, when we go in this world of banking and leverage. So let's have a bit of a conversation about that. All right, so talk about banking and banking and bank account systems. All right, let's talk about how we keep ourselves safe or manage our exposure when it comes to these things. All right. Now, number one rule when it comes to lending and leverage and banking in the beginning is the idea we need to avoid or know cross collateralization or cross securitization. No cross collateralization, no cross securitization. Your personal banking, all right, your personal banking separate from your investment banking, okay. And third but not last is your bank account system. Okay, we'll talk about that as we go along. So what do we mean by no cross security, no cross collateralization? Chuck it in the chat for me if you guys think you've got some ideas here. So let's talk about this. No cross security, no cross collateralization, folks. And what's a classic way of that being an issue for all of us, right? So do a quick example here. Now, you've got your normal home, and let's say you've got a principal place of residence, you've got a PPR mortgage, you owe some money on the home, and you around here. Yep, property, that's the right. What happens is, most of us want things faster because normal human, if it can be less stress, easier, faster, then that. If you can make things a bit easier and faster, fabulous. But in loans, in property, then you've got to slow down and have a think about this, right? Yep, exactly in the Tando, right? So say we want to get access to some equity and we want to buy, an investment property, IP number one, and then IP number two. Let's just say that's on the radar for the next in the next couple of years for us. Okay. IP number 2. You sat down with your coach. You're like, right, here we go. I've got some equity. Here's my goal. I want investment property number 1, investment property number 2. Now, what happens normally is the old bank will go, all right, let's just call it NAB here. NAB got your home. And NAB says, no problem. We'll lend you the money for these properties and, go for it. Away you go. Now, often, maybe the first one property or something, that might not be an issue. Maybe even the first 2 properties might not be an issue to begin with. But, the challenge for all of us to understand is NAB will use this property and this property as security. So they cross-securitize that property. And then what they do is they cross-securitize those 2 and that one, okay? So NAB has got all of those properties as their security. And what do they do? What happens there when they do that? Well, the banks start to reduce something, folks. They start to reduce something as you continue to lend more. Put it in the chat. What do they reduce? What do they reduce? You would think it'd be the other way around, right? So you go, okay, well, I'm a better customer now. They reduce one thing and then they increase the other thing. What is it like? So because they believe now the risk is increasing for them. Okay. They believe the risk is increasing for them. They believe the risk is increasing. So what are they doing? What they do is they reduce, boom, exactly, Nintendo. They reduce the loan to value ratio. So they won't lend you, they might lend you, 90% on this one, but they're saying, only 80% on that one. Okay. What are they doing? Well, each time they're chewing up more and more equity in your home, which is not the go. Okay. So number 1, you don't let that happen. That's not what you let happen, folks. Okay. Because the bank has then now got everything. What do we do? A few of you said it already in the chat. Let's change this. Let's change this. Let's put this in our favor. And how do we do that? Well, you guys probably get the gist of it already. All right. So we put a separation in between those properties, and it's pretty simple, And I'm just using these words, these banks, just for simplistic case, right? Now you might use the deposit. So the deposit comes from here. So the deposit goes over there. Now you take the deposit out. NAB doesn't have any security over that property, but the deposit comes out, dollars. Okay. And now CBA is standalone on that property, standalone with CBA. All right. Then Westpac, you get the deposit out from over here. It goes over and it's in Westpac now and standalone. Happy days. Okay. So that's a very important part of lending. That's a very important part of our banking structures, our finance structures. Okay. What I would do in this circumstance, if you have other things like, credit cards, or if you're a business owner or whatever, you need to keep those things separate as well. So you might personally bank with NAB because that makes life a little bit easier. You've got your offset there and whatever. You might have your personal bank accounts here for transactional purposes, whatever that might be. That's fine. But your investment properties and other financial things that you do into the future, that needs to be separated as you go forward. Okay. So no cross security, no cross collateralization. Okay. Now, personal banking separate to investment banking. Okay. We talked about that as well. So if you've got your investment properties and you've got some other bank account systems, banking accounts over with those guys, then that's important too. But let's talk about the bank account system. That's pretty important for us all because we need to be able to manage our cash flow and how we set up our bank accounts and how money flows through things. And this is sort of a general idea, overview. And you should sit down with the finance team, the broker team, and your coach and make sure you work this sort of stuff out. But let's have a look at this as we go. So we've got our home. And normally we would have let's say our principal place of residence right here. That's the mortgage you've got on your principal place of residence. That's the mortgage on your home. Okay. Now we might sort of tap into some equity. Okay. So some equity for investing. So investing equity, and we get some dollars organized to use to go out and invest. Okay. Now, what's something else we should have attached to our whole setup here? So first, this is your owner occupier. Okay. So this is the non-deductible debt. This is no tax. Okay. Non-deductible, non. This becomes investment debt. Okay. Which is a tax deduction, deductible. Okay. And you need them separate. You need them in separate splits in lending and bank account systems. Now, what's another thing that we got to have absolutely every time we set up? Offsets, boom, absolutely. So you need an offset in here. Now offset is pretty important as you go. And then there's also another thing in here that I'll always set up if you've got access to extra equity. So you've got your offsets where you can keep any extra cash that you need liquid, that needs to sort of go in and out of places, okay? Because interest is calculated daily. Okay, team. So the other one up here, and sometimes you run it in your offset, but I prefer to run it like this, is what I call a buffer. Okay, it's a safety buffer. Okay, buffers. Now I prefer to have a buffer in as a redraw facility in your home loan. Now this is getting a little bit technical, so don't rush off and change everything without chatting to the brokers and bits and pieces. So offset and redraw. So this can be, this could be a redraw, and that down there is your offset. Okay, offset. Now you can have both, and they can be very useful. But yeah, this is just to get you thinking today, right? So let's do this right now, and especially, what's the redraw for? Okay, what's the redraw for, and what's the offset for? Now, this is pretty important when it comes to tax deductibility, how you use the money. It goes in and out as we go. So this is our investment property, and that property, has got some equity in there from our home. Let's call that 12%. And we're borrowed at 88% here. That's usually the ratio. You put it on interest only for the first 3 to 5 years, depending on, the loan that you're getting. There's a few little tips in there that we need to make sure works, right? So, but, all said and done, at the moment, interest rates are a little bit high. And so, let's say that is negative cash flow, $5,000 a year, okay? That property is negative cash flow, 5K, okay? Now, how do we manage that negative cash flow, right? So there's a couple of ways to do this, okay? Number one, okay, let's do this before we do it. Okay, how do we do this? Well, when our rents come in, normally what we do is we put our rents straight into the offset. Okay, that's pretty normal. Nothing wrong with that at all. There is a little bit more sophisticated way of doing this, depending on how you set up, but we'll talk about that in a second. Here's you have your income. So you've got your salary, goes into your offset. And what else would you do if you own an investment property, folks? Let's call it fortnightly. Your rents come in, or weekly your rents come in, and your salaries come in weekly. What else goes in weekly or fortnightly? Offset. Vote in the chat. What else are you claiming? You're claiming weekly, fortnightly, or monthly as you're getting paid? All right. Tax back. All right. So you should be claiming back PAYG tax back variation. All right. So money goes in. So all of that money that goes in, that's right, Luke, tax, your salary goes in, your rents go in, and your tax goes in. Now, why does that help? Well, interest is calculated daily, and the money in there needs to sit in there daily. Now, who needs to be paid at some point? Well, the bank. Okay, they need to be paid at some point. Bank here needs to be paid. So normally you'd put it all in there, and then you'd make one payment out here to the bank, And that would cover things, all right? Depreciation, exactly, Kenpa. Exactly that's where you're getting your stuff from, your depreciation, all those sorts of things. Now you make your payment out there, which includes whatever payment to cover your negative $5,000 for the year. Okay, no problem at all. Happy days. Now the challenge is that negative $5,000 has to come from your salary or your extra cash. Okay, 9 times out of 10 it comes from extra cash. Now there's a way, and today I don't have time to do this, but there's a way to make it come from somewhere else. Where else could you pay for that negative $5,000 for the year, folks? Where else could you cover it from? And if you do it right, get a tax deduction for the interest on that $5,000 as well. Where else could you take that money from in a well-structured banking system? Okay, and it wouldn't come out of your cash flow. Okay, it doesn't come out of your cash flow. If you structure this right, I'll do a follow-up on Monday for this one. But put in the chat, where else can you take the negative cash flow payment from if you're structured correctly and it becomes tax deductible? And it's a thing called recycling. Anyone know what it is? Put it in the chat if you do. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine, because that's why we should do another one of these. Perfect. All right. So if you structure it correctly, if you run these payments into the right place, you can pay for any negative cash flow from the buffer. Okay, the buffer. And this is how you got to set it up properly. You got to set it up so it is tax deductible and it's all ridgy-dig. So you make your payment from the buffer. So instead of the rents going in to the offset, they go into the buffer. So too does the all your salaries and all your tax and PAYG variation goes there. But what happens is the rents go into the buffer. Now we'll talk about that maybe next week. But and then you make the payment out of the redraw. Now the redraw incurs interest because there was a shortfall. That interest now becomes tax deductible, and you start to recycle equity. So what happens is you drive down your principal place of residence debt and you draw up investment debt, and it becomes tax deductible. Anyway, giving a little bit of the future away. So hopefully that was useful today, folks, when we talk about these things. 3 things that are a big no-no. Don't cross-securitize, cross-collateralize. Separate your personal banking from your investment banking, and have a bank account system that you understand how to run offsets, investment equity, buffers, and how things need to be paid, all right, to make it efficient for you and also tax deductible, okay? Because there's nothing worse than getting to the end of the year and you say to the accountant, all right, here's all my stuff. And they say, oh, you've paid it out of the wrong place, or we can't track deductible or not, and you can't get a tax deduction for it, okay? So anyway, there you go. All right, folks, that's it from me. Thanks for joining today. A little bit technical, a little bit of a technical deep dive, but that's all right. Hopefully it sparked a few ideas in your mind that you might need to tune up. And if you're already there, then fantastic. Well done. Good job. All right, folks, that's it from me. Good to see you. Join us tomorrow for another Wealth Coffee Chat. I know the team will be on from lending. So Kang and the team from Positive Money. So they'll be up with all things lending and borrowing and finance. So make sure you join them. All right, folks, that's it. Take care. Bye for now.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your